but also increasingly capable on operations, as has been demonstrated many times in recent years. An attractive colour scheme on the display Jet 2, which has just been cleared for takeoff. The first of our European NATO contributions to this weekend's air tattoo. And here it is rolling now from the Belgian air component, the General Dynamics, now Lockheed Martin F-16A MLU Fighting Falcon. Just in time to allow Gizmo to give his full and or rolling display. What a fantastic demonstration we're about to see. Gizmo being the call sign of Commandant Aviateur Tom de Mortel. After that outside turn, we now expect to see Gizmo quickening the pace, accelerating in afterburner to around 620 knots for his high-speed pass. F-16 from 110 knots at the slope speed pass to that 600 knot pass. This runway is 2 miles long, and at 600 knots that fly pass took 12 seconds from end to end. Trajectory of the aircraft. The more lift you pull, the more angle of attack is required, and obviously the slower you go, the more lift is required, given that there isn't much air going over the wing. Now, as you see him pulling into this, the aircraft is probably accelerating from 180 knots in full reheat, fighting the effects of gravity. But look at the difference between the angle of the nose and where the smoke is going as it departs the trailing edge of the wing. That's angle of attack. This display shows. It also shows you a -2 push in that earlier outward turn to a +9G turn. His helmet assembly weighs about 3 pounds. When he's pulling 9G, that helmet assembly then weighs 27 pounds, which is the equivalent of putting 2 10-pin bowls on the top of your head. Not something I've ever tried. Don't try it at home. Undercarriage down now for a low go around. And from this, Gizmo will be pulling up
coming back in on what we call the A-axis. That's the display axis that's parallel to the main runway. The B-axis is the one that's at 90 degrees onto that when aircraft come in straight towards us. But here comes the Belgian F-16 for the slow speed pass that you were mentioning.
Yeah, now this is truly impressive. As we see him lining up on the 230 metre line, the conditions today are absolutely perfect because he's flying into a headwind. The aircraft will have an indicated airspeed of 130 knots. He's flying into around about 20 knots of wind. So across the ground, the aircraft is doing 110 knots, which is roughly the cruise speed of a Cessna 152. Once again, look at the difference between where the aircraft is going and the smoke that's coming off the trailing edge of the wind. F-16 operators. Yeah, who knows if it perhaps had remained a true or pure air-to-air fighter back in the 70s, it may not have lasted any more than 10-15 years, but the way the aircraft has evolved has assured its 40-year
anniversary fly past, and of course with the Thunderbirds at the end of the show. Both cases, that's the F-16C model, but the earlier A's and B's now much upgraded.
So going back to the 1980s, they only had Sidewinder missiles, no air-to-ground capability and no radar warning receiver. But with the midlife update, they've turned them into a truly 21st century combat-capable aircraft.
And in an era of shrinking defence budgets, that's all the more important. And the end of the Cold War has seen quite a radical slimming down of the Belgian F-16 fleet, but it is, as Mark was saying, much more capable. They've been into action in all sorts of multinational operations in recent years, in the Balkans, in Afghanistan, in the Baltic Air Policing mission, providing air defence to the 3 Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania. They were in action in 2011 over Libya, and more recently in the efforts to combat the so-called Islamic State, or Daesh. Also, Belgium shares quick reaction alert air defence duties in the Benelux countries with the F-16s of the Royal Netherlands Air Force. There we saw one from the Belgian Air Component.